Hey everyone, this is Travis Rusco with Team Quest. You can check us out online at teamquest.org, and we're also on Facebook and Twitter. And today I'm here with Rick Vannatta from Vineyard Christian Fellowship in Dublin, Ohio. Rick, thanks for coming and talking with us today.
Oh, no problem. Good to be here.
Absolutely, absolutely. I wanted to take a moment or two to just kind of introduce who you are. So if you could just let us know, a little bit about your youth group. If you could describe that, what you guys have been up to here recently.
Okay. Yeah, it's been a really interesting year for me. I've been in doing youth ministry for about 8 years here at our church, the church I actually grew up in, and we actually had an interesting year where we had to make some hard decisions. And one of the things that I did for the first time is we actually just recently shut our youth group down for 2 months during the summer because we had some things go on. And but one of the things that I said, God, we need more leaders. And, I don't want to do this thing on Sunday nights if we don't have leaders. And so the very week that I shut the youth group down on Sunday nights, 2 days later we had 10 leaders come and say we want to be a part of what the youth ministry is. And we only have about 25 to 30 students at our church that attend youth groups. So that's a really good ratio of leadership. Yeah. And it was a hard decision that I made, but one of the things that I said is when we relaunched this, we were also switching nights, so it was kind of a good thing to say, hey, let's just shut it down for a little bit and relaunch strong. And what I did is I let the youth and the leaders really be involved in the planning and the things that we're going to do. And we changed the name. The name that we came up with was Real, and the students really liked it because it stood for radically embracing eternal life is what they came up with. And it was just, I saw them get behind it and the leaders get behind it. And, we have a few older leaders, but the nice thing is we have kids that grew up in the youth group become a part of it. So it's been an interesting year for us, and it's just been exciting to see God really come in and take control and be a part of our youth group and make some hard decisions. But we're here in Dublin, Ohio, just going for it, and it's just been good to see it relaunch, and and just be willing to make changes, because I was a little nervous about making the change and whether that would be the right thing to do, but we did it, went to God, and He was faithful to provide for us. So but
Wow.
That's what we did.
Wow. So I'm assuming that probably would have just been a pretty huge step, probably a little bit, you're just jumping out of the boat on the water there.
Yeah, it was hard because I had guys that had interned with me for 3 or 4 years, and they kind of went off to be with other ministries, and they're doing good things. But it was kind of like our youth team, disappeared within a week, and so it was really weird. And I kept it going for about 7 months, kind of me, myself, and someone else, and then I just said, we're not supposed to do ministry alone, and and I just said, instead of this thing, kind of dwindling and kids start getting disappointed, let's just not be afraid to stop. And I thought when I told my senior pastor, he'd be like, oh, you can't do that, we got to have a meeting every week. But I just explained to him that I really feel strongly that we can't do this until we have leaders and people that want to help. Mm-hmm. And he was behind that, and within a week, like I said, we had 10 people sign up. And so I was, and sometimes people don't want to get involved in a sinking ship, and that's kind of where we were going. It was, and so I didn't want to say, hey, jump on board, or else the youth ship is going to sink. I just said we're going to shut it down and just start fresh. and
Mm.
do something new, and not be afraid to, I didn't want to hold on to what I had been doing for the last 8 years. I just said, we're gonna start fresh, and instead of me doing all the planning,
Yeah.
and writing all the schedules, I said I'm gonna let my team, weigh in, and
Hmm.
sometimes do things that I don't
Sure.
necessarily want to do, or things that I know that failed when I had tried them
Yeah.
before.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
You, before the video started, you were mentioning something, and I'm just going to kind of let you um, describe this meeting that you were in. You were recently at a large gathering of I guess of other Vineyard churches, and there was something that was said there at that meeting that really stuck out to you. What was that? If you could take a minute and kind of explain that to me.
Yeah, the question, the Vineyard churches, we just went through uh, uh, a new leadership. We just have a new guy kind of heading the Vineyard. The guy that was with us before led the Vineyard Church Association for, I think it was 15 years, and we brought it was they were passing that on, and so we brought in a new guy. And the question that he's been asking the Vineyard churches is, how is your soul? How are you doing as an individual? And so this weekend we had our youth roundtable, which is the Great Lakes region, which is, we have churches from Michigan and Ohio, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and Kentucky, and we all get together and we just kind of talk about what's going on in youth ministry, what's going on in your church, how can we support each other. And one of the questions that we as youth pastors asked ourselves is, how is our soul? How are we doing as individuals? And one of the things that Travis, that you asked me is, if I could only share one thing with people today, what would it be? And this has just been weighing on my heart this week, is how are we doing as youth pastors? How am I doing as an individual? And so this is kind of something that I'm getting ready to step into this process and ask myself, how am I doing?
Mm.
And that's not always easy, because
Yeah.
it takes daily reflection, and and really being willing to examine ourselves. We're always willing to, and we're always challenged by our leaders or our pastors. How's your youth ministry doing? How many students do you have in your youth group? Blah blah blah. We get asked those questions, but how often do we ask ourselves, how are we doing?
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
do we have someone in our life that is asking us, questions beyond, are you struggling, with
Mm.
pornography? Are you struggling with this as a youth pastor? Some of
Yeah.
those are, a lot of those are just surface questions. They're not really, going deep. But the question with how is your soul, I think,
Mm.
it presses in deeper than just, how are some of your struggles, which I think a lot of times as leaders, we might have someone in our life that's just asking us kind of those surface questions, and
Mm.
we even become comfortable, with that. But, how are we doing with, our marriages? Our marriages affect, how we minister. The kids, see that. How are we doing with our own kids?
Mm.
I have 3 kids of my own, and how am I doing as a father? And when I'm
Yep.
willing to examine myself, that's going to help me minister better.
Mm.
And so uh, I'm just kind of coming back into that, and it's deeper than a New Year's resolution. Because there's a lot of people that are going to start doing diets and journaling and all these things
Yeah.
right now. But and I know that that question did come to us at the beginning of the year, but it really came with new leadership. We as
Hmm.
leaders want to make sure that you know that we're doing well. And one of the reasons that question came is there's been some pastors even in our local area just recently in our own organization that dropped off because of
Yeah.
of sin and we all have those things that we let get out of control sometimes because we're not, pressing in. We're not
Yeah.
really going deep with one another. We're not, uh, you know, really waiting on Jesus,
Hmm.
for ourselves. Like I'm always telling the kids, I read my Bible all week long, but how often am I reading it just for me and my personal devotion? You
Yeah,
know, I,
absolutely.
yeah, I have to, constantly admit that I'm putting lessons together and doing those things for
Yeah.
other people, but how often am I doing it for myself?
Yeah.
You know?
And I think, I mean, you mentioned a lot of things there. One thing that seemed to stick out is, we can get isolated from other people. That's a
Yeah,
huge problem. You could end up getting in a situation where there isn't anyone you trust, there isn't anyone you turn to, and as you mentioned also, um, yeah, that whole thing of um, you're putting together your messages for the youth and kind of looking at that as well. This can be my quiet time with the
yeah,
Lord, my personal. But and so there's all these different things that sneak in. But what are some specific steps that you would encourage other people in youth ministry to do? What are some steps that you're trying to implement? That can really help in this whole area of checking our souls.
yeah. I think, too, it's going to start with our personal reflection and, our time alone with God, but also we've got to have uh, friends as leaders. And I was just reading an article today on churchleaders.com that was kind of, saying, can church leaders really have friends in the church? And I think we do. We have to have friends, and we have to be willing to take risk and to be open with people. And I've been burned by, I've opened up to people in the church about maybe where I'm struggling or things that I'm
Sure.
going through, and then I've had to come back to them and say, look, I'm coming to you as a brother, and that's been thrown up in my face. Well, how can you come to me, blah blah blah, with that? I know that you've had this struggle, or you've wrestled with this in your marriage,
Hmm.
and we have to be willing to take that risk and realize that friendships do get messy sometimes, and sometimes trust is broken. But I know that as ministers, especially youth pastors, a lot of times, we're scared to be open with people and share with people because a lot of times it could mean our job,
Yeah.
because we're used to getting paid, and we know that if we open up, that there's chances that this might go to our pastor, which is also our boss.
Yeah.
And so what do? We internalize these things, and we don't get them out. And I'm not just talking about the big things. I mean, those are just surface issues. God wants to deal with uh, our core longings. We all want to be loved and accepted, and we want to belong. And
Hmm.
I think a lot of times in youth ministry, as pastors, we don't feel like we belong. We're leading, but do we really belong? Do we have friendships? We see a lot of people relating around us, but do we really have friends that we belong to, that we're a part of, that we are engaging with, that we're living life with? And are we? Yeah, I struggle even to talk about this a little bit because I'm wanting to really press back in to this myself and you know, ask myself this question, like how am I doing? How,
Hmm.
you know, and just get real, because
Yeah.
sometimes I think we just get a little out of whack, and we're good at still doing the ministry, but we haven't really asked the tough questions,
Hmm.
and and just allowed God to come in and wait on Him and listen, and allow Him to share with us that He loves us, that that he doesn't even really care about our youth ministry, but he cares about us personally, and he cares about us as individuals, and that our success isn't about how many kids we have coming to the group. It's not about about all that stuff, but it's about how well are we relating to him, and he wants to let us know how much he loves us and cares for us, But we think it's a lot of times the other stuff, that matters. And,
Yeah, absolutely. You had mentioned a specific you had a resource that your church has put together, just a PDF. I think you said it was is it a 30-day process, or
yeah,
can you just explain that for a moment to us?
Yeah, it's actually a resource that I just grabbed. It's a 4-week resource on it's just daily reflection and reading, and it has different questions in it. It's actually put out by the Vineyard USA, and you can find it on the website there. You can order the book. The book is $2.99, or the PDF file is $2.99, and
Okay.
you can download it into your Kindle. And so it is a journal type thing that you enter into, but it is just it's a new resource that they just released it a couple weeks ago, and it's just really helps you on reflecting and asking questions about you, not your ministry, not your successes and failures there, but your personal relationship, because that is one of the things that's hard. I've been in ministry now for full-time ministry for about 15 years, and confusing the things that we're doing with our personal walk, because they're so entwined. They're so what hat am I wearing today, and so it's just really about knowing that we could lose it all, everything that we're doing, the ministries that we're running, and we're still his children, and
Absolutely.
And he loves us and cares for us. And I think when we get a hold of that, that's gonna and when we get a hold of how much he loves us and cares for us, that's going to translate to our students, because they know when we really believe what we're sharing with them, and when we practice what we're sharing with them. And so for me, it's how are we doing, and right now it's finding that person, and it might be your spouse. We should be able to, for some of us, we may need that, or it's just finding a friend, finding someone that will go beyond just the typical accountability questions, because that stuff is just, the church, we focus way too much on the surface. We got to go deeper, and really, get to the root of things. We don't turn to lustful things because that's just the thing to do. If there's something driving inside normally, that if we got to that and let God examine that, then we'd see real change.
Absolutely. It's all it all comes down to a heart issue. Any sin issue, whether it's what we look at as the big ones or whatever, it all comes down to your heart, because that what's in your heart, that's what's pouring out of you, and that's what you are. And I think what you're sharing is absolutely essential for us as leaders, because it can get very, very easy to kind of measure our success as believers by the success that we're having or not having in our ministry. But we've got to remember about our personal relationship. I mean, we preach it to kids every single week, but we've got to be remembering about our own personal relationship with Christ, because also that is going to come back to our ministries in the church and our ministries back home. It's going to affect it all. And I appreciate you sharing this with us today, because it's it's huge, and I think it's something that can definitely be overlooked a lot of time by people in ministry and just believers in general. And so I want to thank you for being here with us today. And if somebody wanted to get a little bit more info on your church, what you guys are about, info on your youth group, how could they do that? Are you guys online? Do you have a web page? Are you on Twitter, Facebook? How can they get plugged in with you guys and see what you're doing there in Dublin, Ohio?
Yeah, we do have a Facebook page for the youth. It's you can find it at REEL, and I actually don't have that on the card. I just know if you look up Real on Facebook, that you'll go to that.
Okay.
Our church website is vineyardtc.org, and we're actually revamping that. I don't actually do much on the web page, so I haven't personally cared that it
Okay.
looks a little old.
Okay.
But
Sure.
yeah, you can find information about us on there. We're redoing that, and then no, we don't have a youth group Twitter and
Okay.
stuff. I have my own Twitter at listenshoot.com, which is also my Xbox Live
Okay.
account too. So it's just
So if people wanna follow you on Twitter, or if they want to shoot you in Halo, same name. That's all they need to know, basically.
yeah. I don't play Halo. I get destroyed by the youth. I tell them
Absolutely.
I absolutely hate Halo
Yeah.
because I just get on there and get sniped.
Yeah. Nothing
And
quite as fun as having an 11-year-old destroy you over and over again.
well, and there's nothing worse, and sorry if I shouldn't say this on here, but there's nothing worse than being pwned by one of the kids in your youth group. You know?
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, Rick, I want to thank you for coming out and for sharing the things. And again, like I said,
Yeah.
very, very important for us to remember as leaders. So thanks for being here with us today.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Thanks.